Okay, the bottom of Haftalah and Beis. I don't say this very often, but it's a difficult Gemara, and I am not 100% sure that I understand it either.
Oh,
So it's a Gemara that pertains mostly to Kachim, laws of the sacrifices, and spent a lot of time, probably more than twice what I usually spend on a Gemara, but I can't say that I fully understand it. So full disclaimer here.
I will try to help you out.
Okay. Now it's interesting. I learned Taisus here has some very interesting observations and thoughts, and he uses those to frame the Gemara, and I don't think that those are by any means obvious. Anyway, okay. So the first thing is, if you have, we learned in the Mishnah, we have a woman who made herself a Nazir, a Nazira, and she has money that's not specified. So the halacha is Yipul Nedava. In other words, she took $1,000. So this is the money that will be used to bring my karbonis of Nazir. Then her husband nullified her vows. So that money should go to a Nedava, should go to a gift. Okay. Problem is that there are three karbonis that are brought at the conclusion of Nazir. There is a chatos, an oila, and a shlomim. Now, an oil and a shlomim, even if you have an obligation to bring an oil and a shlomim, even if you have an obligation to bring an oil and a shlomim, you can still bring them as an nedava, as a gift. So in other words, some oil and shlomims are an obligation, but we'll call a neder, and other ones are called a nedava. So you have the option of bringing an oil and a shlomim that of neder as a nedava. However, chatas you can't. Chatas you can only bring as a neder. When you're obligated to bring a chatas, that's when you're able to bring a chatas. Otherwise, you can't bring a chatas. So the Gemara says you have $1,000 here. Presumably, let's say each carbon is worth a third of the money. So it's $330 for an oila, $330 for a shlomim, $330 for chatas. Now, the Gemara says you bring it all as nedavas, as gifts. Now, this reference of nedava here is typically called the oilas kayat tamizbeach. So in general, we wanted the mizbeach to be busy a whole day. We wanted the mizbeach to always have karbonis on top of it, and therefore, if you can't use the money for your karbonis, you put it into a box called oilas kayat tamizbeach, which means if there was no, let's say it was a rainy day, okay, no one was bringing any karbonis, so they would go to this box. It's a piggy bank, and they would take out some money and buy a carbon and bring it as a carbon. So that's what you put all the money. So the Gemara says the chatos is inside the box, is inside the money. In other words, a third of this $1,000 is dedicated for the chatos. So how can you use it? So we have machlekes here. Rav Yechon says halacha hi b'nazir. It's an oral tradition. It's halacha l'moshe Messinei. There's an oral tradition here that even though a nazir's the money dedicated by a nazir to bring his karbonos, even the money dedicated by a nazir to bring his karbonos includes the chatos. Nevertheless, nevertheless, you can use it's a halacha, it's an accepted tradition that despite the fact that there was money of chatas there, you can still use it to buy standard karbonos. Rish Lakish says, "L'chol edreim u'l'chol nedvaisam." 1 second is. What's the reference here, John? A moment. Okay. Okay. So Rish Lakish here is quoting a pasuk pertaining to typically tumas hamikdashim, somebody who's tamei who enters the base of hamikdash, etc. But the verse states we're talking about somebody l'chol nidreim u'l'chol nidvaisim. The karbonis that are brought for nidorim or nidova. Nidorim is an obligation. Nidova is a voluntary gift. So Rish Lakish says that this is a reference here. Torah Amra, Torah says Moiser Neder Yehei Linadova. The leftovers of a neder are brought as a gift. In other words, over here we have a woman who is a Nazira. She had an obligation, a neder, to bring 3 karbanos. There's leftovers. That leftovers goes to a nedava, it goes to a gift. What type of gift? The oil of kayetz mizbeach, the oil that keeps the mizbeach busy. Okay. According to Rabbi Yochanan, that there is an oral tradition telling us halacha l'moshe misinai that the leftover leftover money of a nazir, even though it's chatas money, is used for an oila. Because of that, it makes sense. Stumin in for Russian law, specifically if the money was unspecified. But if the money was specified, it's specifically for chatas. So then there's no oral tradition pertaining to that, and that money goes into the Yam HaMelech. Yeah, it's interesting. I just saw yesterday, the other day. The Yam HaMelech is not always a reference to the Dead Sea. It's very often a reference to the Mediterranean. It's a salty sea. Okay. So I guess you have to change the location of your expedition to go find all the money.
Yeah. Maybe in much better shape though.
True. Okay. 1 second. According to Rish Lakish, the Torah equates nidreim and nidvaisim, nidorim and nidovas. So why do we say that the Torah is only referencing stam money that wasn't specified? Presumably the Torah is saying even if the money was specified. In other words, the money was specified, this $300 is going to be for chatos. And then the woman's nazirus was nullified by her husband. It would seem that neder could be used as an adava. It's leftover, and it should be able to be used as an adava. Why does it have to be?
Rabbi, I'm sorry. Can I ask for the page line position again?
Sure. Hold on a second. I have to find it myself. 7 lines down. Last word on the line. Amarova. First word on the next line is mifuroshin. Okay. So in other words, if it's mifuroshin, if it's specified, then why can't that also be used according to Rish Lakish? According to Rish Lakish, we have a pasuk that neder could be used as nedava. So if neder could be used as nedava, what difference does it make whether it's specified or unspecified? So Amarava, Rabbi says mifuroshin le'matzis amrit. You can't talk about mifuroshin specified because kvar paska tana devei Rabbi Shmuel. The study hall of Rabbi Shmuel has already ruled on that matter. What exactly did they teach us? So we'll be spending the rest of the day in this brayso. So again, this is more of the stuff that I can't say I completely understand, and might tumble over myself here. Okay, Rak kadashacha asher yilach unidarecha. Let me just find the original of that. Beis Chafav. Okay. So this pasuk is in a list of various psukim, each one dealing with different laws pertaining to kachim. So we learn rak kadashecha asher yilach. Rak means only the kachim that you have, unidarecha, and your commitments. So you have these. 1 second. So you have kadashecha unidarecha. These are both nidorim and nidafos that you have. You're going to bring to the Beis Hamikdash. Now it says rak, only. What's the only? What's the reference here? So he says, we're talking about okay, so let's go step backwards a second. So hold on. Okay. Four karbonis we're familiar with: chatas, an asham, an oila, and a shlamim. An oila and an asham are only male animals. They're exclusively male. A chatos and a shlamim are exclusively female. Okay. Now, obviously, if you have a female animal, might be able to give birth. What happens if it does? That's called vlode kachim. Now, the vlad kachim, the child of a sacrifice, is only possible with regard to a shlamim and a chatos, not with regard to an oila and an asham. An oila and an asham are male. There's another idea called tamura. Tamura is very, very, very interesting. Exactly why the Torah spends so much time on the halacha of tamura. Okay, tamura is one of these situations. We have a few of these in Kachim where people try to do bizarre things, and not only is it forbidden, but it actually is damaging. So one of these things is called tamura. Tamura is a guy who sees an animal that's an oila, it's a carbon oila, and he says the sanctification of this animal should be moved onto this animal. So tamura means he tries to switch it, to take off the sanctification and put it onto a different animal, take off the kedusha, make a different animal kaddish. And of course, the law is can't do it. And if you did it, it doesn't work. So now both animals are kaddish. So that's what tamura is. Tamura obviously can affect any animal, whether it's male or whether it's female. Obviously. Okay, so you have the pasuk says here. 1 second. Okay, so the verse is talking about you have the child of kachim or tamura. Matakanasam, what should you do with it? Tisa uvasa al hamakam asher yivchar Hashem. You should bring them to the Beis Hamikdash. Yachal, I would think, Yalam the Beis Hamikdash. You bring them to the Beis Hamikdash. V'yimne mehemayim basam b'shvil sheyamusu. You withhold from them. Foods so that eventually these animals die because you can't bring them as sacrifices. So that's what I would have thought. In other words, you bring them to the temple. So we bring them to the temple and you kill them. You don't kill them. You basically restrict, you starve them basically. Yeah. You don't do anything, but you let them die. Talmud Leimer, so that's what the verse states. V'asisa oilosecha habosar v'hadam. You perform the oila, the kederach sha'at noig ba'oila nohog b'tmurasa. Just like you perform an oila, you perform the tamura. In other words, the substitution of the oila. If guy switches it to a different animal, that animal. So not only do you bring it to the temple, you perform the sacrificial services. Just like you have a shlamim. The same thing, you do the same thing to its child. So if you have a year-old animal that's being brought as a shlum, a female, and it has a baby, then that baby has the same status as shlomim, and you bring it to the temple and you sacrifice it the way you would with the normal shlomim. Okay. Yochel af vlad chatas utmuras osham kain. I would think that the child of a chatas, because we said it right, a chatas is a female animal, or the tamur of an asham, the substitution of an asham, right? Because an asham is a male animal, can't have children. Okay, they should be the same thing. And basically, so in other words, if a guy's chatas has a baby, or if an asham gets switched out, so then I would think also that the animal, the other animal, either the child or the animal that it was switched for, should also be sacrificed. Talmud Leimer rak. only. There's a limitation there. It's only Oila and Shlom. Okay. Now the point here is, in other words, so what do we do with a chatos? We kill it. A chatos that cannot be brought is killed. So says Rava, if the korban itself is killed, it makes sense that the money that's specified to be brought, the money specified that will be used to buy a chatos, that money isn't going to go to an adava either. That money is going to go into the Mediterranean. That's the proof. Okay. Rabbi Kiva says, "Ein it tzarach, it's not necessary." Okay, just give me a moment here. Hold on a second. Okay, I'll have to explain this. This is very complicated. Rabbi Kiva, according to Rabbeinu Tam, so a chatas that you can't use is killed. That we know. We'll soon see the unique opinion of Rabbeinu Tam that an osham that can't be used is brought as an oila, and it needs to be. Okay. And what Rabbi Kiva says here is, there's no need for a pasuk, because a chatos we know is killed, and an osham we know that osham hu b'hav yasi hey. In other words, an osham is brought as an osham unless it can't be brought anymore, and then it has to be dedicated as an oila, and you could bring it as an oila. Again, remember, an osham is a male korban. So Rabbi Kiva basically says that the entire derivation of Rabbi Shmuel is unnecessary, but he doesn't disagree necessarily with him in saying that the law that he's saying is true. It's just not necessary to have a pasuk. Okay, let's review the Gemara here, because until here I have it clear, and then afterwards I might find myself lost in the forest. Okay, again, start off the Mishnah. We have money of a chatos that's unspecified. What do we do with it? We have money for Nazir that's unspecified, which includes chatos, osham, shlom, and oila. That money goes to an oila. All the money goes to an oila. Oila's kayetz mizbeach, keep the mizbeach busy. Why does it go to mizbeach? We have machlokes. Rabbi Yochanan Shlakish. Rabbi Yochanan says because that's the accepted oral tradition. Halach l'may b'sinai. And according to Rish Lakish, it's exeris akosov l'chol nedreim l'chol nedvaisam. The leftovers of neder go to nedava. So the Gemara wants to know if that's the case. Well, then even if it's specified as a chatos, we're saying that if you took the money into different piles, one pile is this is a chatos. What do you do with the money? The chatos, you throw it into the Mediterranean. So if that's the case, then why wouldn't you say? Why don't we say it's leftover neder? It should be turned into nedava. Why do we say it goes to the Mediterranean, which transform it into a korban oila? So the resolution was because we know that a chatos is killed. So the money that's dedicated as a chatos is also killed. How do you kill money? You throw it into Mediterranean. Okay. Okay. And to support that opinion, the Gemara brought this brisa between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Shmuel points out that a chatos and an osham are killed, and oila and a shlom are not. And the same is true of a tmuras oila and a tmur and tmura shlom or vlad shlomim. An oila we said is a male animal. Same is true with an osham. A chatos is a female. Same is true of a shlomim. If a shlomim has a baby, the baby is treated exactly like the father. It's a shlomim. If a chatos has a baby, it's treated exactly like the father and it's killed. It's an unusable chatos. I'm sorry. The baby is a chatos. If the animal is a chatos and it has a baby, it's a chatos shemesu. The chatos is killed, and the baby is also killed. The same thing is true with tmuras chatos. And according to Rabbi Shmuel, tmuras osham is in the same category. Take an osham, also a type of sin offering. Try switching for something else, or try switching for something else. It cannot be brought as an osham. It's killed. However, in oil and a shlomim, the tamura and the children are brought. Obviously, the children is only possible in a shlomim, are brought as karbonos. Okay, And Rabbi Kiva is of the interesting opinion that says that an osham is actually turns into an oila. If you have an osham you cannot bring, you can say that now I'm going to bring this as an oila, and you can bring it as an oila. Okay. So Gemara goes through the psukim here. This is again, I can't say I completely understand this. Okay, let's try. Hold on. Okay, we're five lines from the bottom of Chaf Hayim and Aleph. Katani, four lines from the bottom of the page. Katani, Yachal. In other words, I would have thought that an oila and shlomim are brought to the temple and then killed, and therefore the Torah has to say, no, bring it to the temple and go ahead and perform the sacrifice and tell me that they're not killed. The Gemara asks, Amai, why is that the case? This is the child of a chatas. I'm sorry. We learn that there are 5 chatois that are killed. I don't remember all of them. I'll try quickly. Basically, any chatas that's unusable. Why is it unusable? It's more than a year old, right? So you didn't bring it in time. You had a kapara from a different animal. The person who needed the chatas died. There's 2 more. Hold on. We'll get to it. Anyway, specifically, the child of chatas is the fourth one, and there's another one. So specifically, chatas we learn is killed. Why would I think that a shlom is killed? In other words, the fact that a chatas is killed when it becomes unusable is an oral tradition. It's a halacha l'Moshe Messinai. It's a tradition we received from Moshe. So why would I think that oil is in a different category? So the Gemara says, no, I would have thought ilav krov, not for the pasuk that says I have to actually bring it. Havamina, I would think vlad chatas b'kol makom. A vlad chatas is killed wherever it is. In other words, if you have a chatas that's unusable, one of the 5 categories of chatas that are unusable, you kill it wherever it is. However, vlad they kachim, but if you have your shlomim has a child, so then you have to kill it in the temple. You bring it to the temple because that's the pasuk says you bring it to the Beis HaMikdash, and then you kill it in the temple. It's not performed as a sacrifice. Kamash malon deloy. That not only is it not killed, it's actually brought as a sacrifice. You need to bring it to the temple and perform the service. Kamash malon deloy. Okay. Okay, that's the first Gemara. Next analysis in the opinion of Rabbi Shmuel. Ketani, it says, Yochel, I would think, Af Vlad Chatos Utmuras Osham Kain. I would think the child of chatas, and remember chatas, it could be female, or osham, which is only a male carbon, is or the tmur of an osham. So somebody attempted to switch an osham to a different animal. I would think it's in the same category. Talmud Loimer, the pasuk says rak. There's a limitation. Only oila and only shlomim are their children or their tmura are performed as sacrifices. But
Rabbi, I'm sorry, page position again, please.
Third line. But chatas and asham are different. So the Gemara asks, "Rak lamali, helchsegamirila." There's this oral tradition that we know, Vlad chatas lamisa also, that there are 5 chatos, 5 types of chatas that are unusable, and because of that, they're killed. So the Gemara says, "Hachanami." You're right. You don't need a pasuk to tell me that a chatas is killed. I know there's an oral tradition that a chatas is killed. The main point of the pasuk is for an asham. The Gemara says asham nami hilchsik mirila. Asham is also an accepted tradition. Kol she'ilu lechatas mesa. Yeah. Asham nami hilchsik mirila. Okay. Any type of animal that if it were a chatos, it would be killed by an osham. It's performed as an oila, but rabbinically you need to give it to a shepherd, and the shepherd waits until it gets a moment, gets a blemish, and then it's redeemed, and then you bring an oila. Why you can't bring it directly as an oila is a rabbinical decree, because we're afraid you might confuse it with a chatos. Okay. 1 second. Hold on a second. Okay. So according to Chase's understanding here, it's a little bit convoluted here. So the question is as follows. 1 second. Okay. In other words, without the pasuk, I would know that an osham is brought as an oila. Again, that's the opinion of Rabbi Dovid. An osham that can be brought is brought as an oila, unlike a chatas that's killed. An osham is brought as an oila. It's not clear why you need the pasuk. So the response to the Gemara is, if we just had the halacha havamina hilchasa v'akriv v'lo l'chayav alav v'lo klum. Okay. So and the answer Tais is saying is that you need, in other words, so why do we need a pasuk? Chatas we know is killed. That's the tradition, and osham we know is brought as an oila. So the Gemara says the truth of the matter is you need a pasuk for chatas. I would think that a chatas, the halacha l'moshe Messina, the tradition tells me don't bring a chatas that can't be brought. In other words, an unnecessary chatas because the owner is dead or because he's already gotten atonement from a different sacrifice or it's older than a year old. A chatas that can't be brought shouldn't be brought. But if you did bring it, then okay, it's fine. So that's why the pasuk says here, rak, to tell me that no, don't bring it. And if you did it, you violated a positive commandment. In other words, the positive commandment in effect is as follows: only bring a tmuras oila and a tmura and a vlad shlomim. Only bring the switch of an oila or the child of shlomim. But if you bring the tmuras chatas, so you bring a chatas that can't be brought, then that's a violation of a positive commandment. In other words, because the Torah doesn't say it as a no, it says it as a positive. Only bring oila and shlomim. We interpret there, don't bring chatas, which means if you did, you violated a positive commandment. That if you did, you're violating a positive commandment. Okay. Next Gemara is even harder. Okay, Rekiva, I remember, let's see if we can finish this. This is just 4 lines. Rekiva's, okay, so Rekiva says, ain't it tzarich, it's not necessary. It's an osham, it isn't, as an osham, it's brought. Okay, the Gemara says, why do I need a pasuk to tell me osham ubav yasi hey, that should be an osham? I know already, the law is, kol shebechatas may sub osham roya. Anything that by a chatos is killed, an osham is given to the shepherds. And like we said, according to Rabbi Tam, the giving to the shepherd is rabbinical. Actually, an osham is performed as an oila. And rabbinically, we said, don't do it as an oila because people might confuse it with a chatas. Okay. Second. Okay, let me just get the right. Tosis has a whole different version here in the text. Give me a second. Okay. Okay, so basically the according to Tosfos' version of Ben Tam, the next 3 lines of the Gemara are extra. So the explanation of the Gemara is as follows. In other words, I know that an Ola is brought as I know that an Osham is brought as an Ola. So why do I need to tell me Osham is an Osham? And the answer to that, which is again is not clear in our version of the text, and that, as a matter of fact, our version of the text is quite to the contrary of Tosfos' explanation. But in our version, but in Tosfos' version of the text, the explanation is as follows: even though an Osham can be brought as an Ola, if the Osham itself is unusable, it needs to be dedicated as such. And that's what Rabbi Kiva is telling me from the pasuk. Osham Yehei means you have to say the Osham has to be transformed into an Ola. You can't just say, take the Osham and bring it as an Ola. You need to say this Osham, because I can't bring it, is now an Ola. And then you can bring it as an Ola. And that's why we need a pasuk of Osham of Osham Yehei. That concludes the Gemara. There's if you want to look at the art scroll, there's a completely different shot. The other version go with. Yeah. Oh, there are. Okay, that makes me feel good. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see. Yeah, I see the another view there. That's probably what I'm telling you. Yeah. So if you look at the art scroll, it looks like they'll probably go through both explanations in this Gemara.
The ashram itself cannot be offered.
Yeah.
Even under the law, unless it has been signed to grazing.
Okay, so that's the other version. Yeah. Okay. So I'll believe that I'll try to go through it. We'll continue this Gemara again, I believe, tomorrow and perhaps on Sunday, I think, as well. Before we move on.
When you say killed, you mean killed right then and there as opposed to grazing.
Yeah. So grazing means that you let the animal graze until it gets a blemish.
Right.
These are minor things. These are not major. These things the animal is still kosher animal.
Okay.
But because it's blemished, it can't be brought as a sacrifice.
Okay.
Then you redeem it, and you can slaughter it and enjoy it. Once it's redeemed, you can slaughter it and enjoy the meat, or you can turn it into a workhorse if you wanted to. I don't mean the horse part literally. And then the money is used to buy another sacrifice, a new animal. That's what. But yamusu in this case means actually killed.
And in some cases you let them.
So the Gemara had a proposition that maybe we should starve them basically.
Yeah, that
would be a different option.
That would be, so there's like 3.
So that one the Gemara says the Gemara doesn't resolve that as an actual paradigm. So I'm not 100% familiar with Kachim to tell you that paradigm does not exist at all. Maybe it does, but it's certainly in our Gemara. Ultimately, we resolve that it's not included. That it's not something that we do.
Okay.
In other words, we prefer bringing an Ola and a Shlomim instead of killing them. Okay, have a great day. I'll try. I can't promise I'll be better tomorrow, and I will try to get a